What's up, guys? I want to go over the bridge. So a glute bridge or a hip thrust or whatever you want to call it. It's an exercise that we do while we're laying on our back to help drive hip extension. So hip extension is this movement where my leg goes back this way. Okay, so I'm bringing my hip back, my leg back. That's called hip extension. A lot of our patients and the people I see even at the gym tend to struggle with hip extension versus spine extension. So as they bring their leg back, they can't help but arch their back. So we'll see this with walking, we'll see it with different lifts that people do, even in these glute bridges. So as you start to do exercises designed for hip extension or glute activation, and you feeling your back at all, that means your form or your setup's a little bit off. So some tips here will involve that. So as you're laying on your back, you know, the first thing I'm going to see is people just kind of arch up like this. Now I can tell you right from here, I feel all of this in my lower back. And partially that's because my back's thrusted up. I'm trying to get too high, which is then me compensating with the lower back. So what I'll recommend first is there's like a two-part setup here, and this is really how we teach how to use the core in general. So the first thing we got to do is flatten our back, okay? So if you're laying on your back, you want to decrease the space. You should not be able to get your hand underneath. So some tricks to do that, maybe engage your abs a little bit to pull your back down or pull your ribs down, and try to envision that you have a grape or a bug or something underneath your spine. You're trying to squash the bug, okay? Squash the bug like that. The other aspect is the pelvis, the hips. So we're trying to work on the pelvic positioning, and this can be a little bit tricky at first for people. So if I'm driven forward into anterior tilt, I'm going to look like this. Again, that drives more extension in your lower back, so I have to rock them backwards, like that. So we got the pull the ribs down, squash the bug, rotate the pelvis back. Now I'm pretty flush with the table here. So I've got my abs engaged, and then before I even raise, I'm going to squeeze my glutes. Okay, so with my core engaged, my glutes engaged, I then just squeeze and raise up. So you can see the difference in how far I can bridge up. But now I feel it all in the glutes. There's a little bit of hamstring action going on here, no big deal. I feel my quads a little bit, no big deal. But the main driver of this movement are my glutes, okay? Not my back. And you can actually feel your back muscles when you do this. You'll see a difference between the two. So as I squeeze and I come up as far as I can maybe get to a straight line here. That depends on the person's flexibility. But one thing I also want to recommend is that as you're going back down, don't just crash down and then reset. Everything should be slow and controlled. So as I'm up here, then I just slowly lower down. There's never a point where my glutes are not contracting. So up and then down. The same goes for a single leg bridge. So as I'm here, up and down, or I can just bridge all the way up to here and maybe straighten one leg like that. But the point is, feel the glutes and don't let them relax. If you're having a hard time contracting the glutes to begin with, squash that bug. I will do what we call glute squeezes. So you just lay on your back, you put a hand under each cheek, and I squeeze the left cheek, and I squeeze the right cheek. And that gets me a feeling of how to utilize the glutes here. So again, squash the bug, rotate the pelvis, squeeze the glutes, and then push up. So, and for the record, I'm pushing through kind of the middle of the foot. So don't drive your heels in. That's a cue I think a lot of people get, and that can throw you off, okay? So this is just a little bit of a instructional tip or tidbit on how to actually use your glutes for a glute exercise. Believe it or not, very hard or very rarely, people with low back pain struggle with this. So it's a game changer. And when you learn how to do this, you're gonna wake up the next day and be like, holy heck, my glutes are on fire, and that's a good thing. So if you got questions, let me know, but start thinking about the form, slow and controlled, and see how you do.